Chapter 76, Taming Processing 3. Rin broke the blue wax seal, intrigued by the envelope's formality. Then he extracted a letter written in elegant calligraphy. Dear Rin, I have spoken with the director about your performance during the expedition. Your support was crucial, and more importantly, you demonstrated an exceptional understanding of beasts that frankly intrigues me. The director has authorized a special support of 100,000 credits for the exchange store. Consider it recognition for a promising student. Perhaps I should start believing in that knowledge of yours and see what it can do with a small push. Whatever you're planning, I hope this helps you achieve it. I'll be absent for a while arranging certain matters. We'll see each other upon my return. Professor Zhao. Rin read the letter twice, processing the implications. The mushrooms in his hair pulsed with accelerated rhythm. 100,000 credits. His eyes shone while making mental calculations. With that, he could buy the materials, his parents' runes, and save his crystals for other needs. Perhaps the Mantis Corps wouldn't have to wait so long. Jesse, he called while returning to counter. I need to make some purchases. So soon, are you sure about? Jessie was still worried, but her expression changed upon seeing the official letter. Oh, I have authorized credits. Rin showed the director's signature. I need specific materials. Jessie checked the authorization with increasingly widening eyes, then checked the credit book. 100,000. It's true. What do you need? First, 10,000 in discarded bronze-rank beast parts. Rin began listing. But only tissues from woody or rocky beasts like the rock crocodile you had a few weeks ago. Woody ones. Jessie consulted the catalog. We have some forest garden remains and still have some of the crocodile you mentioned. But are you thinking of cultivating a ghoul monkey? Don't worry. I know what to use them for. I also need poisonous fungi, the luminescent ones imported from there. Jessie worried slightly. Those are 3,000 each. How many? 10, Rin responded without hesitation. 30,000 just in fungi. Jessie made notes. The woody tissues would be about another 10,000. Anything else? 1 intelligence rune and 2 vitality ones. Jessie stopped her pen. Those are quite common, but do you have them? Yes, but Jessie hesitated. That's another 30,000 credits. And normally they're only used by beasts that can process large amounts of information. The vitality ones aren't good either. A spore, she stopped, uncomfortable. A spore wouldn't benefit, because it only slightly increases strength, right? I mean, doesn't matter, Rin smiled. I want them anyway. Jessie nodded and began processing the order. It'll take a while to gather everything. The discarded parts are in the special warehouse, and the runes in the vault. While waiting, Rin mentally reviewed his plans. The crystals he'd gotten from the skins would serve other purposes. The mushrooms in his hair pulsed softly. Soon, very soon, everyone would understand that a spore could be much more than they imagined. Here you go. Jessie returned with several sealed containers. The fungi are in special containers. They're extremely toxic. The tissues are preserved with their original moss. And the runes. She held a small crystal box. Inside, a translucent stone glowed with a faint bluish radiance. Be careful with them, she warned while Rin examined it. They're very sensitive to magical energies, and you could ruin them. Rin nodded while carefully storing each component. His knowledge showed him exactly how to use each piece, how to combine the elements to achieve something no one would expect from a simple spore. Now for your 49,500 crystals. We have 2 options. Jessie turned to check a small box. I can't store student credits. The ones from the letter are a special case like some other bonuses and rewards. For storing, you must go to the bank section, or you can keep them with you, so you can withdraw a part of the 30,000 you have left, but can't store more here. I can give you 49 normal gold crystals, which are quite bulky, or if you want to withdraw 500 more crystals or have something to exchange, and complete the 50,000. Her eyes sparkled. I can give you 5 dark bronze crystals. They're worth the same, but the bronze ones are smaller and easier to transport. Rin considered his options. Normal gold crystals were apple-sized spheres, each worth 1,000 basic crystals. Dark bronze ones, on the other hand, barely reached the size of a walnut, but each was worth 10,000. Rin gave her the herbs he'd obtained from the Barkstalker's shell to complete the last 500. He didn't want to withdraw or ruin the nice round number of his 30,000 credits for now. The 5 dark bronze ones, please. Jesse nodded while opening a special box. Inside, small crystals shone with a soft, dark tone. Thank you, Jesse. He said goodbye while securing the last container. You've been a great help. Come back anytime, she smiled. And good luck with your cultivation. There was some pity in her voice, but also genuine kindness. Rin couldn't blame her. No one would expect a spore to go very far. Soon they'll understand, he thought while leaving the warehouse. He could finally begin. The mushrooms in Ren's hair pulsed with anticipation while he spread the shadow stalker skins across his bedsheet. Their conductive fibers, perfectly preserved, absorbed light, creating a space of deep darkness. Working methodically, Ren hung more skins using sheets as support until forming a sort of dark tent over his work area. The light that filtered through was minimal, but the faint glow of his fungi was sufficient to see. In the center of this improvised space, he placed a processing pot that all students received. It was made of special opaque metal, designed to contain magical reactions. This reaction wasn't as simple as Taro's. The 100 normal bronze-sized crystals, from the best Ren had mined, aligned perfectly around the pot's edge, each shining with a soft bluish glow. The intelligence rune rested in its own crystal box, emitting occasional flashes. Before processing the crystals in the pot, he had to use most of his mana on that rune. The mushrooms in his hair pulsed more strongly while he concentrated. Slowly, he began directing his mana toward a rune in the covered space, away from contaminating external energies. It was a delicate process. Too fast, and the rune could fracture. Too little, and it wouldn't reach the critical point necessary to begin synchronization with his beast. Sweat drops appeared on his forehead, while maintaining the constant flow. The rune began glowing more intensely, absorbing mana from his mushrooms. Where energy drops touched the surface, tiny points began forming. Like spores, Ren thought while maintaining concentration. 10 days of this and the rune will be ready. It will be reassuring to have it from the beginning. When the process with the rune reached a stable equilibrium, Ren turned toward the poisonous fungi. Their special containers were marked with warning seals. With precise movements, he extracted all 10 fungi. Their colors were vibrant, almost hypnotic. The mortar he used was very clean. Any contamination could ruin the process. The fungi crushed under his careful strikes, releasing a sweet aroma that made his eyes water. When the paste was ready, Ren channeled a small amount of mana. The reaction was immediate, the mixture beginning to bubble softly, its color becoming more intense. The discarded parts of woody beasts and crocodile parts came in sealed containers. Upon opening them, a penetrating smell flooded the space. The moss covering them was the key. Ren directed his mana toward the small plants, which responded immediately. They began growing, spreading over the discarded tissues, consuming the decomposing matter. The process was fascinating to observe. The moss pulsed with each new extension, converting dead tissue into new life. The mushrooms in Ren's hair pulsed at the same rhythm, as if recognizing a familiar process. When the moss reached its maximum extension, Ren began scraping it carefully. Each strand was precious, charged with the transformed energy of bronze beasts. The collected moss fell into the poisonous fungi mixture. The bubbling liquid absorbed it eagerly, its color changing to a deeper tone. The processing pot now contained a mixture of fungi and moss that would serve as transformation medium. The preparation was complete. Now would begin the real work. 100 days of careful cultivation, each crystal absorbing the mixture's power, while the rune developed its spores. In the darkness of his improvised tent, surrounded by the soft pulse of mana, Ren smiled. The first step toward true evolution was underway. Chapter 77, Taming Pain. The materials were ready, but one step remained to ensure the cultivation's success and reduce the pain, even if just a little. The preserved female shadow stalker's body gleamed faintly in the darkness of the improvised tent. Ren manipulated it carefully, tracing the conductive fiber patterns until locating the most appropriate tentacle. A tentacle too thick would absorb too much mana. One too thin would saturate quickly. He needed an intermediate one. with the correct amount of conductive fibers. This one, he thought, while using the weaver thread to cleanly cut a tentacle the size of his index finger. The internal fibers briefly glowed when exposed, hungry for mana. With precise movements, Ren submerged the tentacle in the now mana-depleted solution he had prepared. The liquid, a mixture of poisonous fungi and moss, was instantly absorbed by the conductive fibers. The tentacle darkened, as if it was a paper that had absorbed ink. The barkstalker powder came next. Ren carefully dusted it over the treated surface, watching how it adhered, forming patterns like tiny scales. The powder would seal the tentacle, preventing it from absorbing his vitality instead of just the specific mana he needed to manipulate. Now the delicate part, he thought while unrolling more weaver thread. He began wrapping around a section of the tentacle, creating a safe grip zone. The mushrooms in his hair pulsed with warning when he took the first crystal. The mana density was 10 times greater than those Taro used, enough to cause serious damage to his mana veins if not handled correctly. He breathed deeply, holding the modified tentacle in his right hand. He positioned it over the veins above his stomach, where mana would flow most intensely. Here we go, he thought while absorbing the crystal. The pain was immediate and intense. Mana entered his system like liquid fire, threatening to instantly saturate his channels. His mushrooms began glowing strongly, trying to process the overload. Ren pressed the tentacle at a specific point on his chest. The conductive fibers, hungry but controlled by the treatment, began absorbing the excess mana, saturating the channel. The pain decreased slightly, becoming manageable. He moved the tentacle following his veins, allowing the conductive fibers to unblock saturation points. It was like opening small gates, allowing mana to flow instead of dangerously stagnating. Sweat ran down his face while maintaining concentration. One wrong move, 1 second of carelessness, and mana could fatally accumulate in his vital points. The tentacle and his willpower were his only protection against the overload that would leave him permanently unable to control mana. His mushrooms pulsed erratically, struggling to process the energy flowing through his system. Still in their dormant phase, they weren't ready to handle such power. But that was precisely why they needed this controlled overload. Ren continued moving the tentacle. The process was painfully slow. The tentacle's conductive fibers began glowing with a sickly purple tone, signaling they were saturating. Ren adjusted his grip on the thread-covered section, grateful for that precaution. Minutes that felt like hours passed while Ren struggled to maintain balance. The crystal gradually consumed itself, its mana distributed between his channels and the saturated tentacle. Finally, when the last vestige of mana was absorbed, Ren allowed himself to breathe deeply. The tentacle in his hand was glowing an intense black, saturated to its capacity limit. One down, he thought while placing the used tentacle in a sealed container. 99 to go. The mushrooms in his hair pulsed weakly, exhausted by the effort. But there was something different in their glow, a deeper, more concentrated tone. The first step toward awakening had been taken. The director's office occupied the central tower's peak. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the school grounds, while shelves filled with ancient tomes covered walls that weren't glass. The domed ceiling was decorated with a fresco representing the dragons of different beast families, each in its natural territory. A massive dark-wood desk dominated the room's center. Behind it, the director read a note with furrowed brow while his royal phoenix subtly manifested golden flashes in his white hair. "Zhao is getting soft since that incident," he murmured to himself while his eyes traced lines. 100,000 credits for a student with a spore? And this story about an extraordinary genius? It's obvious he just feels pity for the boy. He left a note on the desk, where it joined several detailed reports about the Medusa incident. At least before his support for the unfortunate made some sense, he continued, his phoenix manifesting more clearly in response to his irritation. But this is just... Finally, he looked up at the young woman waiting patiently before his desk. Her presence was so discreet, she almost seemed to merge with the room's shadows. "I need you to investigate something." His voice adopted a more formal tone. "There's an unusual student, a boy with a spore." The young woman nodded silently. "I see you know who he is. I want you to test him. Something to help us understand what Zhao has seen in him to insist so much." The director took up the note again, rereading a specific passage. I need to know if this is another of his whims, or if there really is something so special about him. The young woman made a slight bow before heading toward the door, her movements so fluid they barely disturbed the air. And remember, the director added as she reached the threshold, be discreet. We don't want your identity revealed over trifles. Ren stored the used tentacle in its special container, his movements slow from exhaustion. The mushrooms in his hair barely pulsed. Also exhausted from the effort of processing so much mana. His reflection in the room's small mirror showed the changes. His veins still glowed faintly under his skin, and the mushrooms seemed more defined with a deeper shine. They weren't changes someone would notice at first glance, but they were there. A hot bath, he thought while gathering his toiletries, and then sleep for a week. The mental exhaustion was different from anything he'd experienced before. It wasn't like tiredness after training with Lin. This was deeper, as if his mind had been stretched to its limit. He headed toward the door, eager to reach the baths before his body simply decided to collapse. Knock, knock. The knocks, though soft, startled him. It was late. His roommates didn't knock to enter, and no one else usually came to the gray wing. The mushrooms in his hair pulsed weakly in alert. Who is it? He asked, his voice betraying some of his exhaustion. That doesn't matter. A female voice answered from the other side. Could you open for a moment? Chapter 78, Taming Lies. The mushrooms in his hair pulsed weakly in alert. Who is it? He asked, his voice betraying some of his exhaustion from the intense cultivation session. That doesn't matter. A female voice answered from the other side. Could you open for a moment? Ren quickly looked around the room. The containers were sealed, shadow stalker skin stored away, work area dismantled. But the smell of a mixture of poisonous fungi and decomposing tissues still lingered heavily in the air. Who are you? He insisted, buying time while considering opening a window to clear the suspicious scents. It will only take a moment. It's very late and I'm not presentable, Ren responded, his exhausted mind trying to process the situation. Could it be tomorrow? There was a pause, barely a heartbeat. The tone changed. Open the door, fungus. Luna's voice cut through the silence, cold and direct. I need to talk to you. Ren froze. Of all people, Luna. He tried to make his voice sound firm despite the exhaustion. I was about to take a bath. Can it really not wait until tomorrow? No. Ren looked around the room with desperation. Everything was stored, but the smell? And he was shirtless, covered in sweat, his veins still glowing faintly from the mana manipulation. Luna, it's really not a good time. You have 10 seconds. Her voice didn't change tone. After that, my wolf will find another entrance. As if to emphasize her words, Ren felt the shadow wolf's presence manifesting on the other side of the door. The mushrooms in his hair pulsed more strongly. 5 seconds. No choice. Luna didn't seem like someone who made empty threats. Ren opened the door. Luna stood there, her shadow wolf partially manifested in the shadow beside her, her blue eyes studying him with clinical intensity. Her gaze traveled over his bare torso, stopping at the veins that still glowed weakly with residual mana. Interesting, she murmured, gently pushing him to enter the room. Her nose wrinkled slightly, though the smell is peculiar. Luna, please. Sit, she ordered, closing the door behind her. We need to talk about what really happened during the expedition. The mushrooms in Ren's hair pulsed with resignation. Where were you when the tent fell? Luna began while her wolf materialized more clearly. Its eyes glowed with silvery tone that seemed to pierce through him. In the hole with everyone else, but you already know that, Ren responded, noticing Luna's gaze focusing on his chest when he answered, studying his mana patterns. When did you leave? When you saw me do it. This is strange. You already know all this. Why? Ren stopped, understanding something. Mana flowed subtly to Luna's eyes, a pattern that Renew generated in some beasts that use enhanced perception. Why did you leave? I wanted to verify something. Lies. Luna didn't change her expression, but her wolf growled softly. The real reason. Ren blinked, surprised by the certainty in her voice. The mushrooms in his hair pulsed while analyzing the mana flow in Luna's eyes again. I wanted to help, he answered carefully, observing her reaction. This time Luna didn't contradict him, but her eyes glowed more intensely. How did you know you could? I didn't know. Rin measured each word, noticing how the mana in Luna's eyes fluctuated with each response. I just had an idea. When did you see Zhao? A while after leaving the hole. The shadow wolf took a step closer, its eyes reflecting the same glow as Luna's. Was finding him a coincidence? Yes. Rin responded and saw the flash in Luna's eyes. No, he corrected immediately. I knew he would be near because of the feathers left behind. Luna narrowed her eyes, mana flowing more intensely. How? By the attack pattern. The mushrooms in his hair pulsed while Rin connected the dots. Luna could detect lies, probably through small changes in the speaker's mana flow. I see you notice many changes. For example, did you notice the Medusas were very organized? Luna began. Too organized for her. I noticed, Rin responded, aware of the mana flowing to Luna's eyes. What else did you notice? That it wasn't natural. Medusas don't hunt like that. No. Luna took a step toward him. They don't. You know what else isn't natural? That a child with a spore knows exactly how to help during such an attack. Rin had to be careful. Luna was building to something. Someone must have been controlling them, right? The shadow wolf tensed. Why is Zhao hiding information about the attack in the official report? Why didn't he make public that they were looking for me and Klein's group? Why don't you ask him yourself? Don't play dumb. Zhao told you something. Luna didn't ask. It was a statement while her wolf moved even closer, before disappearing and avoiding my questions. He thanked me, he responded calmly. It was truth. What else? He left me some credits to the store. Also truth. Luna took a step toward him, her eyes glowing with a particular mana pattern. The games and roundabout hints stopped. Who gave the order to the attackers? I don't know that person. Technically true. He had never met the first minister, but you know their name. The mushrooms in Ren's hair pulsed with alarm. That was the real question Luna had come to ask. Ren maintained his neutral expression. He had to be very careful now. I know many names. Another truth, which is the culprits? I couldn't be certain. Also truth. He had no physical proof to be certain. Luna narrowed her eyes, mana flowing more intensely. What did Zhao tell you exactly? That he would conduct a careful investigation. Truth again. The shadow wolf drew closer, its eyes reflecting the same glow as Luna's. They were looking for the slightest fluctuation in his mana that would betray a lie. Why? Because accusations have consequences. You're good, she said finally. Very good. Rin observed a mana flow in Luna's eyes that were now very close. You can detect lies, can't you? That's why the pattern in your eyes changes with each response. Luna tensed. I don't know what you're talking about. Now you're lying, Rin smiled, the mushrooms in his hair pulsing with enthusiasm. I think I'm understanding the trick. Impossible. Luna stepped back. You couldn't see. My spore can detect mana patterns too, Rin advanced, for the first time feeling he had the advantage. Luna stared at him while confirming that what Rin said was true. Show it to me, said Ron, his smile widening at seeing Luna lose composure and backing away as he approached, turning the tables. Show me how it really works. Chapter 79, Taming Misunderstandings. Now you're lying, Rin smiled, the mushrooms in his hair pulsing with enthusiasm. I think I'm understanding the trick. Impossible. Luna stepped back, her composure slipping for the first time. You couldn't see. My spore can detect mana patterns too, Rin advanced, for the first time feeling he had the advantage in their verbal sparring. Luna stared at him while confirming that what Rin said was true. Show it to me, said Rin, his smile widening at seeing Luna lose composure and backing away as he approached, turning the tables on her intimidation tactics. Show me how it really works. Don't get cocky. Luna recovered some of her usual hardness. You're still just a foolish fungus who says nonsense about illogical evolutions and believes they're true. She raised her hands to push him back, grabbing his wrists. Why do you insist on saying things that go against all logic? She tried to push him backward, expecting to easily dominate him with her superior strength enhancement percentage. Her eyes widened with surprise at finding strong resistance. Surprised? Ren maintained his position, Lin's training finally showing results. Enhancements don't matter if they're multiplying miserable values. Luna narrowed her eyes, her pride wounded. Her wolf began manifesting more fully, preparing to merge and increase her strength. The door burst open. Run. You won't believe what... Min froze mid-sentence, his eyes opening like saucers. Lu and Taro crashed into his back, curious to see what had stopped him. Their jaws dropped almost in unison. The scene before them was difficult to explain. Ren, shirtless and covered in sweat, his mushrooms glowing intensely. Luna, the untouchable Luna, with her hands gripping Ren's wrists, her perfect blue hair unusually disheveled. The room smelled strange. Sheets hung, creating mysterious shadows, and there was a tension in the air that could almost be cut with a knife. Both frozen in what appeared to be a power struggle. "Oh, Min, step back!" colliding with Taro. "My..." continued Taro, stumbling into Lu. "Dragon," completed Lu, his bat manifesting briefly from nervousness. We... Taro stammered, his beetle's markings flickering with embarrassment. "We should come back later." "No!" Luna released Ren as if he burned, her usual grace completely forgotten. "It's not what... We'll sleep in the hallway," Min announced suddenly, his voice 2 octaves higher than normal, his water snake coiling nervously around his neck. "Yes, the hallway." Taro nodded frantically. "It's a beautiful night to sleep on the floor. Very hygienic," added Lu, backing away. "Dust is good for the lungs." "Wait, it's not what it looks like." Rin tried to explain, but his friends were practically climbing over each other to escape. "Take your time," Min shouted from the hallway, his voice cracking. "Yes, don't worry about us." Taro's voice sounded strangled. Luna turned toward him, her cheeks red with fury and embarrassment. "This is your fault." "My fault? You started it." "Ugh." Luna headed toward the door, her manifested wolf ears drooping with embarrassment. "This isn't over. Fungus." And next time, she stopped, trying to recover her dignity. "Next time will be in a more appropriate place. But if anyone," she hissed, "hears a single word about this..." She didn't finish the threat. The room's shadows seemed to come alive, wrapping around her like a dark cloak. In a blink, Luna and her wolf merged with them, disappearing as if they had never been there. Rin stood in the middle of the room, shirtless, sweaty, and suddenly very aware of how ridiculous the entire situation was. The mushrooms in his hair pulsed once, as if laughing. "Guys," he called toward the hallway, "you can come back. It's not what you think." "We're not thinking anything." Min's voice came from far away. "Absolutely nothing. Our minds are completely empty," added Taro. "Like my future memory of tonight," completed Lu. Ren sighed. At least he had discovered Luna's secret about detecting lies. And she had discovered that maybe, just maybe, she had underestimated the foolish fungus. There was a long silence from the hallway. "Is she gone?" Min's voice sounded cautious. "Yes, she's gone." "Through the door?" asked Lu. "Not exactly." "Used the shadows again?" Taro sounded impressed. The three peeked their heads around the door, one above the other like an improvised tower, their beasts manifesting briefly in curiosity. "Is it safe to enter?" Min sniffed the air. "And what's that smell?" "It's a long story." Rin began gathering his bath things lazily, exhausted after everything that had happened. "Oh, we have all night." Lu entered first, his bat manifesting to inspect the room. "Especially after that." "It's not what it looked like," Rin defended while Taro and Min also entered, closing the door behind them. "You weren't having a romantic moment with Luna?" Min arched an eyebrow, his water snake coiling playfully. "Romantic?" Rin nearly choked. "She was interrogating me." "Without a shirt?" Taro grinned, his beetle's markings shifting in amusement. "I was going to take a bath when she appeared." "Uh-huh," Lu nodded solemnly. "And I suppose she tripped and you fell on her." "No, she was..." Rin stopped, remembering he couldn't explain the real reason. "We were just talking." "Very closely?" Min wiggled his eyebrows suggestively. "And in the dark?" added Taro. With mysteriously hanging sheets, completed Lou. Rin groaned, collapsing onto his bed. You're impossible. And you're a heartbreaker. Min sat beside him. Who would have thought? First Lin, now Luna. Taro pretended to wipe away a tear. Our little fungus is growing up. Lin just trains me. Ren protested. And Luna hates me. Hate and love are very close. Lou philosophized, his bat nodding sagely. Can we change the subject? Run pleaded. Weren't you going to tell me something when you came in? The three exchanged looks. Oh, right, about the mines, Min smiled. But this, he gestured at the room and hanging sheets, is much more interesting. Though it stinks, added Taro. What were you really doing? Rin sighed. This was going to be a very long night. I'm going to take a bath, he announced, standing. And when I come back, we'll talk about anything else but Luna, understood? Whatever you say. Lou winked. Romeo. His friend's laughter followed him into the hallway. The mushrooms in his hair pulsed with resignation. They would never let him forget this. At least Luna was equally embarrassed. That was a small consolation. Chapter 80, Taming Prophets. The next morning, Lynn appeared before Ron with her trademark sadistic smile. Not even his exhaustion from the cultivation process could save him from training. Faster, Lynn's voice cut through the morning air as she made him run, with weighted bands strapped to his limbs. When he was finally released that afternoon, his muscles trembling from exertion, Ren decided to demonstrate his cultivation process to his friends. They gathered around, watching with curiosity and apprehension as he meticulously laid out his materials. First, I crushed the poisonous fungi, Ren began explaining, his movement precise and practiced. Min nodded along, following the process with keen interest until Ren reached the part about overloading with 10 times more mana than Taro and controlling his veins with a tentacle while enduring excruciating pain. His eyes glazed over, and he toppled backward like a felled tree. Min! Taro lunged forward to catch him. Lou observed in silence, his bat ears occasionally manifesting as a reflection of his unease. The methodical way Ren handled materials that would make most people retch was disturbing, to say the least. And you say you'll absorb all that every day for 100 days? Lou finally asked, his voice a blend of admiration and horror. Just 100 days, Ren replied with an unsettling casualness. Lou nodded slowly, his respect for Ren growing alongside a healthy dose of caution. There was again something deeply unsettling about the ease with which his friend handled substances that could kill a grown adult. The following days fell into a new routine. Classes continued as normal, though Luna now watched Ren with intensity that made everyone around them uncomfortable. I think she's plotting your death, Taro whispered one day during May's class. Or your wedding, Min added, earning a sharp elbow from Ron. Training sessions with Lin grew more intense. Each day brought new exercises, new aches, new boundaries to push past. The mushrooms in Ren's hair seemed to pulse in rhythm with his growing strength. Your body is changing, Lin observed as she watched him lift weights, her keen eyes noting the subtle transformations. Whatever cultivation you're doing, it's working. Ren could only grunt in response, too focused on not dying from exhaustion and pain. Finally, at the end of the second month, the official crystal report arrived. Ren opened as during breakfast, the mushrooms in his hair pulsing with anticipation. The report detailed everything. Crystals mined from the caves, specimens collected, even processed and sold beast hides. Guard signatures and Master Song's verifications certified the mined crystals, while Isaac and Jesse's signatures confirmed the hide sales profits. Zhao's signature at the bottom of the collection report certified each of the last items. Ren's eyes grew wider and wider as he tallied the amounts. The Academy would double everything. Crystals found in the caves, beast materials values, collected materials, processed and sold materials profits. How much is it? Min leaned over his shoulder, curiosity evident in his voice. Ren revealed the total. His friends gasped in unison. That's... No wonder Luna's interested, Taro joked, earning a death glare from Ron. The Academy's bank occupied the administrative tower's first floor, a surprisingly modest space considering the wealth it managed. At this hour, it was nearly empty, with only a few senior students making routine inquiries. Wren felt small as he climbed the stairs, his official report clutched firmly in hand. "Well, look who it is." Mr. Finch's high-pitched, mocking voice sliced through the silence. "The Academy's most prosperous fungus cultivator. My most intriguing depositor." The banker was a short, thin man with round spectacles that magnified his eyes until they resembled those of a startled mouse. His perfectly trimmed mustache seemed to have a life of its own when he spoke. Despite his impeccable banker's uniform, something in his eyes suggested he found everything terribly amusing. His beast, a small white mouse, occasionally darted between his fingers as he counted crystals. "Good afternoon, Mr. Finch." Wren approached the counter, the mushrooms in his hair pulsing gently. "Come to confess your crimes?" Finch smiled as his mouse approached, sniffing the air suspiciously. "Because I must say, 5 dark bronze crystals 2 weeks ago was quite interesting. Not many 10-year-olds handle that denomination. Actually," Wren began pulling out the report. "Oh, wait! Don't tell me." Finch raised a hand dramatically. "Found an ancestral treasure? Robbed a noble's chest? Or perhaps your mushrooms have hallucinogenic properties, and you've been selling them to the senior students?" The mushrooms pulsed with amusement as Wren slid the report across the counter. "What's this?" Finch adjusted his glasses. "Your written confession? How considerate. Normally I have to—" He stopped mid-sentence, arching an eyebrow while stroking his mustache, his eyes growing even larger behind his glasses as he read. "This is—" He blinked several times, his mouse jumping to review the numbers. No, there must be a mistake." "Is there a problem?" Wren asked, suppressing a smile. "Problem?" Finch let out a hysterical laugh. "The problem is these numbers make no sense. 2 weeks ago, you bring 5 dark bronze crystals, which was already suspicious enough. And now," he consulted the report again, 55,000 additional crystals." His mouse began frantically calculating in a small notebook. 105,000 crystals in total. Finch removed his glasses to clean them compulsively. "With a spore? The weakest recorded creature? Are you certain you haven't been selling illegal substances?" "Everything's in the report," Wren replied, "with Professor Song and Zhao's signatures." "Ah, yes, the signatures." Finch narrowed his eyes. "You're sure you didn't forge them? Or perhaps hypnotize the professors? Do your mushrooms have hypnotic properties in addition to being hallucinogenic?" "I just need to withdraw 5,000 crystals. Just," he says. Finch turned to his mouse. "Did you hear that, Theodore? Just 5,000 crystals, as if it were pocket change." The mouse nodded solemnly while continuing its calculations, tiny paws moving across the ledger with surprising dexterity. "You know," Finch leaned over the counter, his eyes gleaming with undisguised curiosity, "I've been at this bank for 15 years. I've seen students with legendary beasts amass fortunes. I've watched nobles squander entire inheritances. But never, and I mean never, have I seen someone with a spore earn so much in such a short time." He straightened, adjusting his glasses with practiced precision. "Either you're a criminal genius, or there's more to those mushrooms of yours than anyone thought. About those 5,000 crystals—" Wren persisted. Yes. Finch began counting but paused mid-motion. "Just 5,000? No grand plans? No extravagant investments? No fleet of golden carriages?" "Not for now." "Boring." Finch sighed dramatically. "Sure you won't share your secret? Between financial colleagues?" "I promise not to tell anyone. Except Theodore, of course. But he's a vault. Aren't you, Theodore?" The mouse nodded again, though its whiskers quivered with what appeared to be suppressed laughter. "Just good luck," Wren replied. "Ha! Good luck." Finch snorted while counting crystals. "Next you'll tell me you won it all playing dice." As the banker prepared his withdrawal, Wren reflected on his true plans. The mushrooms in his hair pulsed while his thoughts drifted to his home. The problem was that now they had to rent it. First, Wren thought while Finch counted crystals with unnecessary flourish, "I'll get their house back." Then, his eyes gleamed with determination. "Then I'll show them they can have more." Voila! Finch interrupted his thoughts, presenting the crystals with theatrical gesture and sliding them toward Wren. Here you are, my mysterious mycological magnate. 5,000 crystals, perfectly counted by the humble servant before you and verified by the illustrious Theodore. The mouse executed a small bow. Thank you. Oh, no. Thank you. Finch smiled while stroking his mustache. You've made my week far more interesting. Usually, I just see students complaining their allowances won't cover cultivation crystals. But you, he shook his head with mock admiration. You're a mystery wrapped in enigma and covered in glowing mushrooms. The mushrooms in Wren's hair pulsed with what seemed to be amusement as he stored the crystals. Until next time, Mr. Finch. Ah, a thread of future surprises. Finch turned to his mouse. Theodore, keep an eye on this one. When we least expect it, he'll show up riding a dragon made of fungi. Azrin walked away. He could hear Finch muttering, a spore, 105,000 crystals. Theodore, perhaps we should consider a career in mycology. Chapter 81, Taming Aspiration. Wren walked slowly back to his room, the 5,000 crystals weighing in his pocket like stones of possibility. The mushrooms in his hair pulsed softly while his thoughts wandered to his parents again. He stopped before a hallway window. At this hour, they would be preparing food in the small restaurant's kitchen, earning barely enough to survive. 100,000 crystals, he murmured with nostalgic feeling. In just 2 months. Memories rushed in unbidden. His mother counting crystals at the kitchen table, worry in her eyes as she tried to make the money stretch. His father exhausted but smiling, always smiling. The investment, he whispered while the mushrooms pulsed more slowly, as if sharing his memories. I could return everything they spent on me. His fingers brushed the crystals in his pocket. Each one represented another step closer to repaying what they had sacrificed for him. Another memory struck without warning. His father on that night when he fell ill, coughing in bed while apologizing for having to use their savings on medicine. His mother, trying to smile while selling her best cooking pots to complete the payment for the worst egg. 500,000 crystals, Wren whispered, recalling the price of their old house. I could get it back in less than a year at this rate. The mushrooms pulsed stronger, as if trying to show him something. The image of their old house appeared in his mind. It wasn't large, but it had been their home for years. His parents had never complained. Not once. Even now, paying rent for the house that was once theirs, they kept smiling, kept working hard, kept believing in him. No, he said suddenly, his voice firm. It's not enough. The mushrooms glowed more intensely as a new resolution grew in his chest. They gave everything, he continued. Not just the house. Everything. Their 30 years of savings. Their dreams. Their chances. He began walking faster toward his room, his energy building with each step. Why settle for staying where we were? The words came faster now. Mom always wanted a bigger garden. Dad dreamed of a larger, better-equipped kitchen. He stopped before another window, looking out toward the distant city. The high-ranked districts shone more brightly, their buildings rising above the rest like constant reminders of what lay beyond their reach. 30 years saving. His voice trembled slightly. 30 years working double shifts. 30 years waiting to have a child. And when I finally came, the mushrooms pulsed forcefully, sharing his emotion. They gave me everything. The words rushed out now, without hesitation, without second thoughts. Just everything. His eyes moistened as memories flowed. His mother teaching to cook even when exhaustion bent her shoulders after a double shift, her gentle hands guiding his smaller ones through each motion. His father carrying him on his shoulders like a dragon. Spinning tales of legendary beasts despite his back aching from hours in the kitchen, never once letting the pain show in his voice. They don't deserve to just get their house back, he declared with renewed determination. They deserve more, much more. Ideas began flowing through his mind like a rushing river. A new house, larger than their old one. A huge garden where his mother could cultivate whatever she wanted without worrying about space. A kitchen where his father could experiment with new recipes, with proper equipment and room to move. 10 million, he murmured, testing how the number felt on his tongue. A house in the city would cost at least 10 million crystals if I just... The mushrooms in his hair pulsed forcefully at the magnitude of the figure. their light reflecting off the window glass. No, it's impossible. I'm getting cocky since I got a bit lucky lately, whispered the part of him that still thought like a low-rank family son. Is it too much? Responded the new part, the one that had earned over 100,000 crystals in 2 months. Is it really too much? His eyes moved to the intelligence rune inside its box with a crystal, where spores continued developing, to the sealed containers filled with materials most would fear to touch, but he had collected alone, to the crystals gleaming with contained power that he was absorbing daily now. 2 months, he repeated, his voice stronger. 100,000 in 2 months. And I'm just getting started. The mental image shifted. It was no longer their old house with its familiar rooms. Now he saw a new house, spacious and bright, worthy of the people who had given him everything. A house in any normal district of the city they choose, any one they want. If I can prove I'm capable of reaching at least silver rank, I could get them a good place. No rank restrictions, no limitations. The mushrooms glowed like captured stars while his determination grew, casting dancing shadows on the hallway walls. I'll show them, he promised. I'll show them their sacrifice was worth it, that their faith in me wasn't misplaced. His hands closed into determined fists, knuckles white with resolve. I won't just recover what they lost. I'll give them what they always deserved to have, what they never allowed themselves to dream of because they were too busy taking care of me. Ren felt something new awakening inside him. He was no longer just a child trying to fix the past. He was a son determined to build a better future for those who had given everything for him. 10 million, he repeated. This time is a promise. And that's just the beginning. The mushrooms pulsed one final time, sealing his oath with their ethereal light. This was no longer about recovering a house or the tuition of 1 million. The old goal of regaining what was lost now seemed so small, so limited. He no longer wanted to return to what they had. He wanted to take them where they never imagined they could go. This was about giving them the world they had always deserved. Chapter 82, Taming the Sleeping Core. A few days after reaching his new resolution, Ren sat on his bed, every muscle protesting after his night training with Lin. The mushrooms in his hair barely pulsed, exhausted from another day's work in the mines. Correct maturation, 10 out of 100. Incorrect maturation, 82/1000. The amount of crystals he'd collected and his mana resistance had taught him something important. No matter how much he trained or how hard he pushed himself, his limits were painfully clear. He couldn't venture beyond 200 meters to work, could only stay for a few hours, and accumulated 4 days of incorrect maturation. Plus, the monsters wouldn't let him stay in one place for long. Even 150 meters sometimes yielded better results. At 250 meters, it would be 8 points of incorrect cultivation, and he'd be dangerously close to the bronze ring's mana levels. He wouldn't even manage an hour of work there if he considered the time needed to climb up and down, or the time to avoid monsters. Today, he'd barely lasted 2 hours at 150 meters before excess mana forced him to retreat. His cultivation was oversaturating him as well. But if I want to make more money, he murmured while massaging his aching arms, I need to go deeper. The mushrooms pulsed weakly, as if nodding. It wasn't just about knowing how to find good materials anymore. He needed to be able to reach them. The iron ring and the minus 100 meter level, with their low mana concentration, were safe but limiting. Even in just over a month, when they will have their next collection trip, he couldn't achieve much more than before if he wasn't able to endure. The truly valuable materials were in deeper zones, in territories where higher-ranked beasts dwelled. 10 million crystals, he thought while remembering his promise. I won't get them by settling for what I have now. Rin knew that even at bronze rank, his fungus wouldn't have the power of a common beast. Its capability was unique, but its raw power and mana processing were far below a common beast. If he wanted to give his parents a truly comfortable life, he needed access to rarer, more expensive materials. But with his current level, Ren stood up and took out the Mirror Mantis core. He had kept it, thinking it might be useful eventually, but now that he was closer to being ready, a second beast, he murmured while the mushrooms pulsed more intensely. With the right process, he stopped, an idea forming as he remembered a story his father used to tell him before bed. A tale about dragons and the origin of eggs. The world was divided by the abyss, a chasm so deep no one had seen its bottom. Some said it reached to the planet's heart. The abyss cut the world into 4 parts with its 2 perpendicular lines. One line was the dead abyss, and the other the living abyss. Yano controlled 1/4 of the world. Yano another quarter, or so they said. Rin smiled at the idea. Control was a pretentious word when 90% of those 2 territories belonged to dragons. Humans barely occupied a circular area that monsters simply despised for its lack of mana. The other half of the world, divided by the living abyss, no one had crossed. The dragons won't let you go there. The mushrooms pulsed while knowledge showed him why. Behind the territory of the dragons guarding the living chasm, the abyss wasn't the dark and dry void that divided Yano and Yano. It was a living river of pure mana, so concentrated it glowed with its own light. The few adventurers who had ventured that far and seen the chasm from afar swore eggs were born there, floating in that primordial flow. Like seeds in a current, Rin murmured, remembering his father's words. Each egg absorbs mana from the nearest dragon's territory, and that's how it gets its color and potential. It was a beautiful story, romantic even. It's just a tale, Rin reminded himself, smiling. A pretty story about dragons and mana rivers. But his knowledge told him there was more to it, though something didn't add up. If eggs only came from the abyss and dragon territory, how could the kingdom release hundreds to the market each year? How did they collect them? Who ventured that deep into dragon territory regularly? Knowledge whispered a different answer. Rin observed the mantis core again. They don't need to go that far, he murmured while the mushrooms pulsed with excitement. Because the abyss isn't the only source of pure mana. Knowledge flowed more clearly. Mana veins ran throughout the world, like arteries carrying life. Most were small, barely detectable. But the ruins. His eyes widened with understanding. The ancients built over a point where a huge vein came close to the surface. Or so I believe. It was so obvious once you think about it. Why else would you build a city over ancient ruins? Why was there no mana in this part of the world? Rin didn't know the exact answer. But with his fungus's information that didn't quite fit, he could guess there should be mana in this abyss too. How had they achieved such a thing? Rin didn't know, but he was certain. He had no proof, but also no doubts. After all, the best tales always hid some truth. And if he was right about the ruins. But that wasn't important now. The mushrooms glowed while Rin followed the thread of thought. It needs pure mana, he thought while studying the fractures in the core, like the kind that flows in the world's natural veins. Knowledge unfolded in his mind. The core could revive if it absorbed enough pure mana. 100,000 units exactly. With that, and using a secret technique the mushrooms whispered to him, he could recover the mantis's complete evolutionary line. His eyes shone with new determination. An extra beast, eventually a bronze beast. It would mean being able to venture deeper into dangerous territory, collect more valuable materials, and work for longer periods without succumbing to mana excess. But first, he studied the core carefully. I need to feed it. Injecting his own mana was out of the question. It would be a waste considering his current limitations. But the mines, the mushrooms pulsed while Rin began calculating. At his current mind level, the core would absorb 4 units daily. At that rate, it would take decades. But if he could find a small mana vein deeper down, one his knowledge told him exactly where to find. His eyes narrowed as he did the calculations. 10 days, he whispered, the plan taking shape in his mind. I just need to find a way to get down there, without dying. Rin stood and began organizing his materials. If he was going to do this, he would need a perfect plan. Chapter 83, Taming Deception. 10 days, he whispered, the plan taking shape in his mind. I just need to find a way to get it down there, without dying. Rin stood and began organizing his materials. If he was going to do this, he would need a perfect plan. The mana vein was there, 300 meters beneath the academy. It wasn't large like the ones feeding the abyss, but it would serve his purpose. The problem was how little time he could endure down there. 15 minutes maximum before the mana overloaded him. Near the vein, it would be even worse due to the mana flow's irregularity. He needed to do it early before the day's cultivation, which meant skipping training with Lin too, which would help him to also have more strength for the small adventure. I need help, he murmured while organizing his materials. The male shadow stalker tentacles he'd saved would serve as duration extenders, but he needed something more. Hey, Min, he called his companion, studying on his bed. Do you still have that weaver's thread? The one we got from the expedition? Min looked up from his book. Yeah, haven't traded it yet. Why? Would you sell it to me? What do you want it for? Min's small snake peeked up too, its curiosity evident to run in the way it moved its flickering tongue. Projects, Rin replied vaguely. Projects, Min repeated with a knowing smile. Like those that make our rooms smell like death. I'll pay 50% more than what they give at the exchange. Sold. Min didn't even hesitate, though I'm worried you're willing to pay that much. While storing the thread, Ren took out the potion Zhao had given him. The green liquid glowed softly. Then he spoke with Taro about helping him fake something. You're going to skip training tomorrow? Taro asked worriedly. Not exactly, Ren smiled. I'm just going to delay it a bit. Just the morning one. Lin will kill you, Lu commented without looking up from his notes. Not if she can't find me. All three of his roommates stopped what they were doing to stare at him. You're going to try to hide from Lin? Min sounded genuinely concerned. The same Lin who found you instantly that time you hid on the roof? Or when you tried sleeping under your bed? Taro added. Or that time in the library? Lu smiled. Behind a big plant. This time is different. Rin began preparing the tentacles, wrapping them with weaver's thread and dusting them with bark stalker vitality powder. I have a plan. Oh no. Min sat up straight. Last time you said that you ended up hanging upside down in the courtyard. Lin has a routine, Rin explained while working. She always checks the same places in the same order. I just need to prepare my alibis before she arrives. You've been studying her patterns like she was a beast? Lu arched an eyebrow. She taught me to use everything at my disposal. Rin smiled. First she comes here. If she doesn't find me, she checks the dining hall, then the library, the roof, and finally the gardens. And Taro leaned in with interest. And tomorrow, Rin held up prepared tentacle, she'll find evidence that I went to town. To town? Min frowned. But we can't leave the academy. Exactly. Rin pulled out a paper. That's why when she finds this note about a special permission and an errand... Oh no. Lu removed his glasses. You're going to forge documents? No, Rin smiled. I'm going to make it look like I was asked to by someone who conveniently always needed an assistant to pick up materials early in the morning. Who would be so? Min stopped. No, you wouldn't. Professor Wei always asked for help with his morning deliveries. Ren continued working on the tentacles. And coincidentally, tomorrow he won't be at school. You're going to make Lin think Wei took you to town, the same Wei who hates you. Taro sounded impressed. Without Wei knowing. Lin hates him so much she won't even ask him. Lu nodded appreciatively. Brilliant and terrible at the same time. I only need a few hours. Rin began storing and preparing materials. By the time Lin discovers the truth, I'll be done. And dead anyway, Min added cheerfully. It'll be worth it. Rin stored the last tentacle. Besides, it might even work. His friends exchanged skeptical looks. Want us to prepare your funeral? Taro offered. I just need you to do something for me, Taro. Rin headed to his bed. And maybe some ice for afterward. Lots of ice, Lu corrected. And bandages. Lots of bandages. Rin gave them an uncomfortable smile as he prepared for bed. Tomorrow will be an interesting day. And probably painful. Lin stopped in front of the gray wing's door, her feathers partially manifesting as she checked the time. 6 a.m, the perfect moment to wake her favorite student. Good morning, little one, she murmured while opening the door, only to find 2 deeply sleeping students and 2 empty beds. Her eyes narrowed. In the time she'd been training Run, he'd only tried escaping this early 3 times. Where is he? She asked the sleepers. Min stirred in his bed, mumbling something about dancing snakes. Lu didn't even move. Taro wasn't there. Lin methodically searched the room. The bed was cold, He'd been gone for a while. The trunk was closed, but... Oh! Her lips curved into a dangerous smile. Trying to be clever? Lynn noticed something peculiar. Wei's assistant delivery uniform, normally hanging in the hallway for students who help with deliveries, had several clasps and one was on the floor near the trunk. So you want me to believe you took the uniform? Lynn thought. Clever, but predictable. A note slightly protruded from the trunk, as if someone had hurriedly stored it. Lynn carefully pulled it out. Temporary assistant for Professor Wei. Sorry, I'll be back soon for exercise. Impossible, she murmured. Wei would never take an assistant from the Gray Wing, much less... Let's check the dining hall. She headed to the dining hall, her usual second stop. At this hour, the cooks were already preparing breakfast and morning deliveries. The new assistant? The head cook nodded when asked. Passed by a while ago. Professor Wei's uniform and everything. Said he had to prepare a special delivery. Lynn smiled. Ren had used the uniform to access restricted areas early in the morning. No one would question a Wei assistant. Was he planning to hide inside one of them? The library was her next stop. She found it open, unusual at this hour. Oh, the new assistant just finished organizing the delivery records. The librarian pointed to some perfectly ordered documents. Creating an alibi, Lynn examined the records. They were all correctly filed, including the materials order for today. Very efficient, though those mushrooms in his hair were quite peculiar. He's leaving too obvious a trail, Lynn thought while climbing to the roof. He doesn't want to hide. He wants me to follow. On the roof, she found another clue. A materials list with Professor Wei's seal, apparently dropped here by accident. Using the system against itself, Lynn murmured, genuinely impressed. Ren had learned well. Each move was backed by official procedures. The gardens revealed the final piece. The delivery cart was in place, clean and prepared as Wei always demanded. But the gardens were empty except for the gardener, who had also just seen Ren heading toward the main entrance. Lynn stopped, processing the information. That little... Lynn smiled despite herself. It was an elaborate plan, using the antagonism between her and Wei to prevent her from verifying directly with him. But her eyes gleamed with understanding. All this real work is just a distraction. Lynn smiled. It was brilliant, really, making the work appear real, so no one would question anything. No forgeries, no obvious deceptions. Just a temporary assistant doing his tasks. Except, her eyes narrowed as her crane fully manifested. Wei is out of town today. Where are you really, little trickster? Chapter 84, Taming the Depths. Except, her eyes narrowed as her crane fully manifested. Wei is out of town today. Where are you really, little trickster? Lynn headed toward the main entrance. Had Ren really gone to town with no formal permission? Lynn observed the figure in the assistant's uniform near the main entrance. The mushrooms in his hair glowed under the dawn light, though something seemed different. Got you, little cheat, she thought while silently approaching. You can't leave without real permission, and Wei isn't here to sign it, so you are trapped in the end. The figure moved strangely, as if practicing what to say. Good morning, Sir Guard. I'm here to make a delivery, he muttered to himself. No, too formal. Hi. I need to go out to... No, too casual. Lynn smiled. It was almost adorable watching him so nervous. Not quite like... Trouble with the script? She asked softly, right behind him. The scream that followed was definitely not Ren's. The figure turned, revealing Taro's terrified face. Obviously, fake mushrooms were precariously attached to his hair. Teacher Lin. Taro squeaked, his voice 3 octaves higher than normal. What a terrible, delightful surprise. Taro. Lin crossed her arms menacingly. What interesting hair accessories you've chosen. This. Taro nervously touched the fake mushrooms. It's a new fashion Rin taught me yesterday, and... Where is he? Who? Taro stepped back. Professor Wei? As you know, he's out of town and couldn't finish the... Taro. Yes. Your legs are shaking. Taro looked down. Traitors, he muttered to his legs. Now. Lin smiled sweetly. You're going to tell me exactly what's happening or I'll... I can't. Taro nearly cried. I promise, and I distract you while He covered his mouth with both hands. While he what? Nothing. Taro began sweating profusely. He was just going to buy flowers. Lots of flowers for you. Because he appreciates you so much for torturing. Training him 3 times every day. Taro. Yes. You're sweating so much the mushrooms are falling off. Indeed. One of the fake mushrooms slid pathetically down his forehead. They're sweaty mushrooms? Lin sighed. How did he convince you? The night before. Come on, Taro. Rin pleaded while holding the fake mushrooms. I just need a few hours. No. Taro crossed his arms. Lin will kill me. I'll give you my dessert for a week. Risk my life? Not even for a month of desserts. I'll help you evolve your beetle even beyond bronze, all the way to silver. Taro hesitated. Really? I know exactly what you need to take it even further, Rin smiled. Besides, Lin won't hurt you. You're too adorable when you're nervous. I'm not adorable, Taro protested. I'm intimidating. Min and Lu, listening from their beds, burst out laughing. Besides, Rin continued, you just have to act suspicious near the entrance. Lin will catch you, interrogate you, and by the time she's done, I'll be back. What if she asks where you are? Tell her I went to buy her flowers. She'll kill you twice when you show up. Worth it. Ren placed the fake mushrooms on Taro's head. So, Taro sighed, looking at his reflection with the mushrooms. Fine, but this better be important. The next morning, long before dawn, Ren and Taro snuck out of their room. The hallways were deserted at such an early hour. Remember, Ren whispered as they walked, in the end, you just need to stay near the entrance. Lin will see you, interrogate you, and by the time she's done, I'll be back. I still don't understand why I have to practice what to say to the guard if I'm not even going to leave. Because you need to look nervous, Rin smiled. And that, my dear friend, doesn't come from you naturally if you're faking it. You are a terrible actor, but an awesome actor in the right conditions. I don't know whether to feel flattered or offended. In the morning, after finishing placing the clues, they stopped at the intersection leading to the mines. Good luck, Rin whispered. And thanks. The hidden tunnel Rin constantly used to dodge the guards at 100 meters remained the safest route. The mushrooms in his hair pulsed softly as he slipped through. He often worked at 150 meters, so he knew the place fairly well now. At 200 meters, the first change was evident. The common worms here were twice as large, better fed by the mana density. Their tunnels formed more complex patterns, creating true gallery networks. Past 200 meters, the greater worms began to appear, 4 times larger than their lesser counterparts. 2 fusions had transformed them into true tunnel machines, their segmented bodies glowing with concentrated mana. Each now had a complete core, capable of processing the dense ambient mana, but they were no longer the only inhabitants. Digger beetles and very rare hunter bugs lived here too. The mushrooms pulsed in warning when he reached 250 meters. Here the ecosystem changed dramatically. The first deep worms appeared, beasts the size of a cart that made the lesser worms look tiny, 8 times larger. But the most impressive began just after. At around 275 meters, the first bronze beasts made their appearance. The living tunnels, massive beetles that had evolved to turn their own bodies into mobile tunnel extensions, created gallery networks that seemed to breathe. Their shells secreted a living mineral that reinforced the walls, transforming simple tunnels into organic structures. They weren't mere tunnelers, they were bioengineers, reinforcing walls with special secretions. Natural architects, Rin murmured as he passed near one expanding a chamber. The deep and greater worms acted as workers for these superior beasts, maintaining the tunnels in exchange for beetles' increasing protection. It was a symbiotic society, the worms executing and the beetles improving. At 300 meters, where his objective waited, the mana was already 16 times denser than that of the iron ring, the mushrooms in his hair pulsing with effort to process it. Here, the symbiotic society had made a complex web of living tunnels that beathed with a soft yellow tint. Like the entrails of a huge beast, they had to make it because something else inhabited these depths. Here, A bronze beast line reigned supreme. The mushrooms pulsing warning when Ren detected the first trace. Claw marks on the walls, so fine they seemed carved with diamond. Knowledge flowed, revealing fragments about a new species, the Deep Assassins. Chapter 85, Taming the Depths 2. Here, a bronze beast line reigned supreme. The mushrooms pulsing warning when Ren detected the first trace. Claw marks on the walls, so fine they seemed carved with diamond. Knowledge flowed, revealing fragments about a new species, the Deep Assassins. The assassins were the true predators here. Their bodies, long and segmented but with hyper-articulated, elongated limbs, allowed them to move along walls and slip through narrow tunnels, while also being covered in vibration sensors that could detect the slightest movement through the rock. Their bodies, a matte black that absorbed all light, made them practically invisible in darkness. But most terrifying was their proboscis, like a diamond sword. Ren thought while examining one of the marks. Knowledge showed him how the beast used this lethal tool, first locating its prey, then piercing through up to 50 centimeters of rock and its prey's skin or shell, then injecting enzymes that paralyzed and liquefied internal organs to slowly suck them out. Their prey remained alive through most of the process. They seemed like a nightmare born from the fusion between an assassin bug and a hunting spider, but perfectly adapted to subterranean life. The assassins primarily hunted deep worms in living tunnels, ambushing them from the other side of walls that weren't yet reinforced. The assassins were the reason why all other beasts at this level built reinforced refuges. But nothing was completely safe. The assassins always found a weak point, a thinner section, an unprotected angle. Some abandoned tunnels showed signs of ancient battles. Walls perforated with small holes, abandoned galleries full of circular marks, remains of emptied shells. Ren had less than 15 minutes before the mana overloaded him. It was time to advance, but first he would need to ensure no killer decided to add him to its core collection. All creatures here were practically blind. Ren intensified the glow in a pulse that illuminated the distance just once. A movement caught his attention. A killer emerged from its hiding place, its nearly 5-meter body moving with disturbing grace. For white and opaque eyes, blind, glowed faintly against Ren's light, while specialized antennae tested the air for prey. The beast slid along the wall without making the slightest sound, its legs detecting vibrations that revealed the position of creatures in nearby tunnels. Its proboscis, normally folded beneath its head, briefly extended. It was almost as long as Ren was tall. A perfect predator, Ren observed, fascinated, as the assassin located its prey, a greater worm excavating too close while expanding a tunnel. The beast calculated the exact angle to pierce the rock. With a fluid movement, the assassin pressed his proboscis against the wall. There was no sound as it drilled, the precision such that it barely displaced material. In seconds, it had created a perfect hole toward its victim. Ren was grateful the killer was too far away and occupied to hear his steps. He stopped in a small side cavern, acutely aware that any wall could hide a lurking killer. The mushroom's pulse showing him it was clear. The air was now much denser, charged with mana that made breathing require conscious effort. Ren advanced cautiously, each step measured while his senses adapted to the increasing pressure. The prepared shadow stalker tentacles absorbed some of the excess mana, but he could still feel it accumulating in his system. The tunnels here didn't look like rock caverns anymore, transforming into something that seemed less mineral and more organic. The connecting tunnels and walls had a yellowish tone that melted into deep oranges, as if he were entering the entrails of a colossal beast. That's when he saw it, a living tunnel emerging from a side gallery. Ren pressed himself against the wall, holding his breath while the beast worked. It wasn't aggressive, but at this depth, everything was potentially lethal for him, even more so if it confused him with a small hunter bug. The advance continued. At this depth, the living tunnel's work had created a maze that seemed designed to confuse. An escape and defense system, Ren understood while carefully navigating. Ren stopped at an intersection, aware that mana was already beginning to saturate his system. The vein was close, he knew from his knowledge, but between him and his objective lay a sea of identical tunnels. A soft pulse. The illumination bounced off the walls, returning with information. Another pulse. Clearer this time, the tunnels had a pattern. The living tunnels didn't dig randomly. Their galleries followed specific rules. Like a chronology, he thought while studying the marks on the walls. The older sections returned a more opaque glow. As they approached active zones, the designs became more reflective. A third pulse revealed more. Main intersections always had 7 exits. Secondary ones, 5. Those leading to rest areas, 3. Knowledge flowed as Ren advanced. The mana vein was too powerful for creatures at this level to approach directly. The vein must be in an old, saturated zone, he reasoned. Living tunnels would avoid rebuilding near a pure mana geyser. Some must have exploded sometimes with so much energy. Following this logic, Rim began tracking back in time to the patterns. Each intersection led him to more opaque but crystal-rich tunnels. Information came in fragments as he studied the tunnel patterns. The vein periodically expelled a geyser of pure mana that crystallized into a huge crystal formation of at least 5th rank, creating a chamber that no common beast could penetrate. Only something with the power of a dragon could break that mana-saturated rock to feed. But most fascinating was what knowledge revealed about the eggs. Some emerged from the geyser itself. A living tunnel or deep killer egg would be useful, he thought. But the contract wouldn't work like that. The beast he would get would be more basic. A digger beetle like Taro's, or perhaps a hunter bug. The potential was there, but it would take time to develop. The vein he sought was very small. Knowledge whispered that in areas like this, an egg appeared perhaps every decade. The Academy probably conducted periodic dives to collect the fixed eggs they found, but few bothered to search for them. The general perception was that digger beetles and hunter bugs only reached bronze, which made their fixed eggs, though more expensive, less desired than the brown eggs a kingdom released. 50 of those came out each year, promising the possibility of a mold too with supposedly better potential. Still, it would be unlikely to find one, and his mantis was better for his first beast. The beetle was a defensive beast, and the hunter bug had good offensive but short-range abilities and was slower. The mantis was faster and had some mid-range abilities. For Ren's taste, its skill kit was more attractive. Still, having an extra egg wouldn't be bad in any case, or he could sell it. Ren continued advancing until he found it. A yellow living bridge that seemed to breathe and crossed over a deep gallery. On the other side, he could feel the vein pulsing with pure mana. But there was just one problem. A massive deep worm rested inside the bridge, its body occupying all the space. The beast dozed, probably recovering after excavating new galleries.